Well, could the next pandemic make the height of the COVID-19 outbreak look mild? That's what some experts are predicting for what's being called Disease X.
So I am very worried that we just don't, we as a nation, we haven't made that commitment to really fully protect the American people.
We caught up with internationally recognized Dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor and co-director of the Texas Children's Hospital Center for Vaccine Development, Dr. Peter Hotez, who's traveling to get his take on the topic.
We have a likelihood that new pandemic threats, that people call them Disease X, are going to be rising on a regular basis. I've written about this as well. I wrote for the Houston Chronicle a couple of months back that COVID-19 is just a warm-up act. The next pandemic may not be as severe, but it could be much more severe.
Why are we seeing so many pandemics?
It's one of the most common questions I'm asked. It's a confluence of 21st century forces. A big one is climate change.
Come on, man.
Where are you now? As you look ahead, there's going to be another pandemic.
Yeah, this is unfortunately only the beginning. Remember, we've had 3 major coronavirus pandemics in the 21st century. We know what's next. We're going to have another major coronavirus pandemic before the end of this decade, before 2030. We're going to have zoonotic influenza illness. We're going to have arboviruses, mosquito-transmitted viruses, because of that combination of climate change. We're seeing that now on the Gulf Coast. So, put your tray tables in the upright position and your seats forward and your seatbelts on, because this is unfortunately a new wave of pandemics is going to be upon us because of that combination of 21st century forces of climate change and urbanization and human migrations. We need to have that recognition that COVID-19, unfortunately, could be just a warm-up act, that there are far worse pandemics that could be upon us. Ramping up our ability to make vaccines, enabling the virologists to do the surveillance. But unfortunately, what you're starting to see now is this revisionist history that wants to blame the virologists for creating the pandemic. So instead of containing the viruses, we're containing the virologists, and that's going to have tragic consequences. And we've got to figure out a way to overcome the anti-vaccine sentiments. I mean, look at what's happened now with these new boosters. So last year there was a bivalent booster that came out. Fewer than 20% of Americans got that. Now with this new annual immunization for the XBB variants that are currently circulating, that became available in September. I mean, I got it and about 6 other Americans got it, but that's what we're looking at, really low numbers, so that when the next pandemic comes, what I'm worried about, it's going to be something like that. People are going to be holding back, and that will also come back to bite us.
A little bit of the COVID stuff, I was a little annoyed by that. I know.
I was very annoyed by it.
I don't know. I just spoke in a conference in Florida, and I had Robert Malone sitting next to me in the car when he was going out there, and I just kind of saw some of the craziness there. And I know that's a really sensitive issue, but
it's sensitive, but it shouldn't be. Yeah. It should be sensitive the other way. Everyone at this point in time should realize that we got hoodwinked.
Yeah.
Everyone should realize that it was an overall net negative for children that got kept out of schools, masks, all the shit that we saw that went on. Forget about just the vaccines, the lockdowns, just what they did, the closing of businesses, the essential businesses, that they had big chains labeled as essential, but these small mom and pop stores were forced to go under. People had worked their whole lives to develop these businesses, and they took them away from them. And it's fucked up. And the fact that no one is outraged still, and that this narrative has been allowed to be portrayed through the mass media, that this isn't a major problem, and that this cannot happen again. Like, this is fucking madness, man.
Yeah, it's like you said, the shirt I'm wearing here. This is from my jiu-jitsu coach. This guy's named Greg Anderson. He was a
I know that dude.
I
follow him on Instagram.
He's a good guy. So he special forces or special operations rather, Army Ranger, 14, 15 tours overseas, comes back as a Seattle cop. And during the pandemic, and they were like, hey, you need to go arrest this lady for doing people's nails at her home. And he's like, I'm not doing that. This is total bullshit, right? And he made a video, and it went viral.
Yeah.
A police officer, I'm compelled to make this video.
The video, posted May 5th, was recorded inside Port of Seattle police officer Greg Anderson's patrol car.
I'm seeing people arrested or cited for going to church. for traveling on the roadways, for going surfing, opening their businesses.
In it, Anderson sharply criticizes officers enforcing stay-at-home orders and urges law enforcement to take a stand.
If you're part of a department or an agency that is asking people or asking their officers or their deputies to impose on people's rights and infringe on their freedoms, you need to step up and say no. And if that costs you your job, so be it. I've already expressed this to my department. And luckily for me, I come from a department that I feel like my chain of command shares my view.
The video quickly garnered thousands of views, but fast forward 1 week, and Anderson is telling a very different story about his department.
I got a call and it said, listen, the video needs to be taken down right now and you need to accept a letter of reprimand.
Anderson says he refused to take the video down, even after getting a call from Port of Seattle Police Chief Rod Covey.
Greg, if you openly defy your governor, you can't be a police officer in the state of Washington. Now I am on a administrative leave status pending termination.
On the Port of Seattle's Facebook page, Chief Covey posted a statement confirming that Anderson is on paid leave, quote, while we look into allegations that he violated our policy on the use of social media.
It's an insubordination charge, and it will result in me ultimately being let go from the agency.
On social media, Anderson's videos have garnered comparisons to Facebook posts by Snohomish County Sheriff Adam Fortney, now facing recall after announcing his department would publicly defy the order.
And the cops, the Seattle Police Commissioner said, hey, Greg, we agree in principle what you're saying, but you got to take down that video. Like and he just said, no, fuck you, I'm not going to do it. So they fired him. And so he got like a GoFundMe page, and he raised a bunch of money, and he opened a jiu-jitsu studio and a CrossFit gym. He's like, I make more money now as a jiu-jitsu guy than I ever did as a cop. So
he's great online too. He's very wise.
He's a good guy, and he always beats my ass whenever I roll against him. He always armbars me, that motherfucker, man. It's
of
just
course.
like